Welcome to HFY Stories. Please subscribe to the channel. Your one click means the world to me. The contract hit the steel table hard enough to rattle a water cup. The number at the bottom was more money than I had seen in my life, and my left shoulder clicked when I reached for it. Across from me, a diplomat kept both hands folded. Read every page before you decide. I stopped with my fingers above the screen. Whatever they wanted, 6 weeks of questions had led to this room, this number, and a choice nobody had imagined when we landed. 6 weeks earlier, Proxima 4 had been trying to swallow my boots. Captain Miller led 5 of us through knee-deep jungle muck toward a damaged communications relay. Our scanners flickered uselessly. The canopy killed most of the daylight. Worse, the usual animal noise had vanished. Davis whispered that he could see the relay. Its casing had been ripped open. Deep grooves scored the metal. "That wasn't weather," I said. Then a vibration passed through my chest. I barely got Miller's name out before the canopy moved. The stalker came down fast enough to make rifle sights irrelevant. It was rover-sized, black-armored, eyeless, with 4 mandibles opening around a pale mouth. Davis fired first. The shot sparked away. The creature swept a tree apart with its tail and crossed the clearing before we could reorganize. For 1 second it faced Davis. Then it turned toward me. I fired until it hit me. My rifle snapped between us. The impact drove me into the mud, and one of my shoulders took the full force of its jaws. Armor cracked. Something underneath it cracked too. The pain punched every other thought out of my head. Stalker venom was supposed to finish the job quickly. Everybody on Proxima knew that. So I waited for the rest. Instead, the animal stopped. Its whole body jerked, its grip loosened. A thin, shocked cry came from somewhere inside those mandibles, and it stumbled away from me as if I had bitten it. 2 steps later, it dropped into the mud and stayed there. No one fired. Miller kept his weapon trained on it. Davis looked from the carcass to me. "You still with us?" I pushed onto one elbow. Unfortunately. Then Davis saw the animal's mouth. Where my blood had touched its teeth, the surface was beginning to pit and smoke. That was the first impossible thing. The second was me staying alive. Dr. Sullivan rode back with us in the rover, one hand on my bandage and the other on a scanner that refused to give her the numbers she expected. A stalker bite should have produced a fast neurological collapse. 10 minutes passed, then 20. My shoulder hurt badly, everything else worked. At Outpost 31, she cut away the damaged armor, stabilized the fracture, drew more blood, and stopped talking to me. 2 hours later, I asked whether the silence meant I was cleared. She turned a tablet toward me. "No," she said, "it means I had to run the test 3 times. The venom was there, far more than enough to kill me." On the magnified display, the alien protein chains were breaking apart inside my blood. Sullivan leaned both hands on the bed rail. "Your body isn't ignoring it. Your chemistry is wrecking it before it can wreck you." I stared at the screen. "So the poison failed." "On you," she said, "and I think you did something worse to the stalker." That was why Miller and Davis went back for the body. 4 hours later, the dead predator lay in quarantine under white examination lights. Sullivan worked below us in a sealed suit, while Miller and I watched through reinforced glass. She opened the creature carefully, tracing its strange hydraulic organs until she reached the throat. Then she stopped. "Captain," she said over the speaker, "look at the tissue around the mouth." Even from the gallery, I could see the darkened damage. Sullivan took samples, checked them, then checked again. Miller folded his arms. "Give me the simple version." She looked up at us through her faceplate. The stalker is built around an alkaline internal environment. Human blood, salts, metabolic traces, even compounds from an ordinary human diet are violently incompatible with it. Hayes didn't survive because the creature missed. He survived because the venom couldn't function inside him. She lifted another sample. And the stalker died because feeding on him exposed its most vulnerable tissue to chemistry it was never built to tolerate. The room seemed to get smaller. For 3 years, that species had controlled where we walked, when we patrolled, how far we built from the fence. We had treated it like the final word in planetary evolution. Miller looked at me. You understand what she's saying? I looked down at the enormous animal under the lights. We came here thinking everything on this planet could eat us. Sullivan's voice came softly through the speaker. Apparently not. That discovery moved through Outpost 31 faster than any official order. Sullivan tested more human samples and found the same pattern. She believed a concentrated human-derived deterrent could repel several native predators without a firefight. Miller authorized a controlled perimeter trial. A few nights later, Davis and I stood behind the southern fence with agricultural sprayers instead of rifles in our hands. Shapes appeared between the trees. Crawlers, a coordinated pack that normally triggered mortar teams. Hold, Miller said from the tower. They came closer. My palms were sweating inside my gloves. That almost made me laugh. Now, Davis and I sent a pale mist through the fence. The front animals recoiled immediately. Their formation broke. Several dropped back while the rest scattered for the jungle, abandoning the attack so completely that Miller's thermal display showed them running long after they had vanished from sight. Davis lowered his sprayer. That's it. I watched the last heat signatures disappear. Don't confuse effective with safe. One of those things still gets its weight on you, you're in trouble. But the perimeter changed after that night. So did the jungle. Weeks later, a young stalker stepped into a clearing in front of my patrol. My rifle stayed on my shoulder. The animal tested the air, recognized the chemical boundary around us, and backed away on trembling legs before disappearing into the brush. That was when the larger galaxy finally paid attention. Outpost footage reached the Interstellar Coalition. Representatives who had spent decades treating humans as crude frontier laborers watched a predator fall after biting one of us, and then watched packs abandon ground around human biochemical deterrents. Their first reaction was fear. Their second was paperwork. Regional Director Collins stood before the High Council and explained that Earth biology had evolved under pressures many coalition species considered extreme. Aggressive microbes, reactive oxygen, plant chemicals humans routinely consumed, and immune systems accustomed to constant biological conflict. The Council called us contamination risks. Collins called us adaptable. Then Inspector Kalin came to Proxima 4 to see us in person. Kalin arrived sealed inside a massive containment suit and nearly stopped moving when the mess hall doors opened. Sensors on the suit began chirping at the steam rising from lunch. Davis sat nearby, spooning chili into his mouth. Kalin's translator announced, "The air contains a strong irritant." Sullivan glanced at the bowl. "Spices." The inspector watched Davis add more. "You deliberately consume it." Davis shrugged. "Lunch tastes better this way." Kalin turned toward me. "And caffeine. Usually before lunch." That inspection was supposed to decide how tightly humans should be restricted. Instead, Kalin saw an opportunity. The Coalition possessed resource-rich worlds it could not settle because their ecosystems destroyed equipment and personnel. Humans, Kalin reasoned, might survive there long enough to establish footholds simply because our biology occupied a range those ecosystems could not tolerate. That idea became the Vanguard Project. Which brought me back to the steel table, the expensive contract, and the planet turning in purple light. Harrison sat opposite me. A Gura general filled one wall as a hologram. 12 Outer Rim worlds have been identified, the general said. The first is Tartarus 7. The display listed brutal gravity, corrosive weather, electronics eating spores, and predators that made Proxima's stalkers look manageable. I pushed the contract back. So you want humans dropped into places everybody else abandoned. We want permanent beachheads, Harrison said. Full logistics, medical support, heavy protection. In return, your units make those regions survivable for later extraction teams. I felt the old ache under my collar. You want exterminators. Harrison's jaw tightened. I want humanity to stop begging for territory. They need something only we can do. The Gura general leaned closer in the projection. And the council wants you to command the first unit. I laughed once. A predator bit me, that is not officer training. No, Harrison said, but surviving it changed how every species in this coalition sees your people. The room went quiet. I looked at Tartarus 7, then at the Commission, then at the hazard pay figure that had seemed enormous 10 minutes earlier and strangely small now. I thought of Sullivan staring at impossible lab results, Miller watching a jungle retreat from a fence, Davis eating food an alien inspector considered hazardous. For generations, humans had entered the wider galaxy assuming survival meant becoming cleaner, softer, safer, more acceptable. Proxima had offered another answer. I pulled the contract back. Who do I get? Harrison finally smiled. Your choice. Then Davis comes, Sullivan too if medical clears it. The general gave a slow nod. I signed. The approval light turned green beneath my hand. At the door, I stopped and looked once more at the storm-wrapped world rotating above the table. One more requisition, I said. Harrison raised an eyebrow. Tell Supply the first drop needs 4 times our normal coffee. Behind me, the purple planet kept turning while a new line appeared on the logistics screen. Human Vanguard, caffeine allocation, priority.